infrastructure is having a bit of a rethink, and it's surprisingly hopeful. Welcome to today's episode of the EdTech Podcast. I'm your host, Philippa Wraithmel. As AI scales and cities grow, energy systems are being pushed. But that pressure is accelerating smarter solutions. The International Energy Agency has been tracking the sharp rise in electricity demand from data centers and AI workloads. And at the same time, we're seeing a global shift towards decentralized, renewables, and more resilient grids. The World Bank is also pushing a practical message. Smart city transformation doesn't have to mean tearing everything down and rebuilding. Modular upgrades can modernize cities step by step. And UNESCO is increasingly clear that if AI is going to benefit everyone, then local infrastructure matters, including learning hubs and community access that don't collapse when connectivity or power becomes unreliable. So the story this week is simple. Resilience isn't just a climate or energy issue anymore. It's an equity and education issue too. And that brings me perfectly to today's guest. I'm joined by Edward Fitzpatrick today, CEO of Conflow Power and the creator of iLamp, which is essentially reimagining the streetlight as a solar-powered, AI-enabled infrastructure node, not just for lighting, but for connectivity, sensors, safety, and even edge computing. In our conversation, Edward takes us from his investment banking to smart infrastructure, and then onto one of the most fascinating ideas I've heard in a while: autonomous AI campuses and learning hubs powered by decentralized revenue-generating infrastructure. So let's get into it. Hello and welcome, Edward, to the EdTech Podcast. It's lovely to have you here. Would you please tell the international listenership a little bit about yourself?
Hi, thank you, Philippa. Thank you for having me. Very exciting. Okay, I'm Edward Fitzpatrick. I'm the CEO of Conflow Power. We have one flagship product called iLamp. I've been growing that for the past 5 years. I'm a kind of serial entrepreneur. Been in investment banking mainly as my main career was in investment banking. And I decided to build, I have a platform that helps people raise money. This company came along that had an amazing battery technology, so I bought into it. I ended up taking it over. We ended up pivoting that battery technology into what can I use this battery for that would be the most efficient use. For me, the most efficient use then was, well, why don't we invent a new streetlight? Streetlights are everywhere, and every city and urban location has them. They've been fundamentally important to our for the last 100 years. They make our streets safer, they make our roads safer, but they're dumb. They're a single-use item. It's like having a watch on your wrist. It just does one thing, and now we've got a telephone that does everything, and that's why I called it iLamp, because it's like an iPhone, but on the street. Yeah. And so what we've done with iLamp in the past 5 years is just take a bog standard boring streetlight that sucks grid energy and created a solar unit that is sufficient to run the light. Then we discovered we have excess power. So we take that excess power and say, what other things can we put on it? The first thing we put on was a camera. The second thing was Wi-Fi. Then we start putting sensors on. Now we've put an NVIDIA Jetson unit inside. Now we're putting the Sparks unit inside. So it's just mushrooming into literally, I think I energized it by calling it iLamp and having an ad store like an app store. And technologies just came at us. AI cameras came at us, and AI capabilities came at us, and AI software came at us. And we just thought, yeah, we can plug that in. Yeah, we can make a use case for that. And now it's mushroomed into something just ginormous. Now we are in the edtech space just because we're bringing education through the fact that the iLamp can generate revenue. Because it can generate revenue, you can pay for things with it because it's generating revenue. So we've pitched 5 governments in Africa to literally build AI universities in Africa on the basis of just putting streetlights down around their roads and then putting the streetlights around a campus and creating an AI hub that would be, because of the router and the controller and the GPU, you can create an intranet in a university campus, which is then autonomous from all power sources and all communication sources. It means that you can run an AI model in the university campus. And if all power went down, you had some natural disaster, God forbid, or a hurricane like happens in Florida, where all the grid goes down and all communications go down, our unit would still be up and operational.
That is absolutely incredible. I mean, there is so much there that you have just shared that I want to unpick. So I feel like the most sensible thing is to go right back to the start in terms of obviously a very different shift from going from investment banking, but then also kind of, I guess, within that, you're seeing lots of investments and you're seeing these different things. So what was it that was, apart from the things that I guess you've just spoken about there with the mushrooming out, but that initial glimpse, what was it that kind of made you go, this is the thing that I think is going to be really special?
Yeah, it's because it's autonomous, and I feel like we're going into a new age. I've because I've been in investment banking all my career. I kind of I get a sense of what's around the corner. You just get that sense of these things are coming because you've got your finger on the pulse. And so you're just deriving data, and it just becomes like a natural thing. I guess if I was playing tennis against you and I said, I'm going to fire this ball at you at 180 miles an hour, you're not going to get it back. I'm not going to get it back at 180 miles an hour. But the tennis player who's practicing that every day for his entire career, he's not looking at it at 180 miles an hour. He's looking at the way the guy threw it up at the other side of the court. He knows where it's coming because it's an instinct. And so I've developed this instinct. And so my instinct was, we're going to need power. It's all going to, I think the tech companies are turning into power companies. And I also think that's a mistake, by the way. I think that the superscalers that are building superscaled data centers now, I think that's a mistake, because I think I know the technology is advancing at such a pace that it's really hard to get your head around how fast that pace is going and how much of a change that's going to incur. And because of that, I think these superscalers are going to be obsolete very, very soon. I mean, in the life cycle of very soon, 5 years, they'll be obsolete. When you're putting billions of dollars into something, that's a serious consideration or a serious call. And now I'm saying this with you on your podcast, that someone might say, 5 years ago, Edward said to Philippa, that these superscalers are going to be obsolete, and maybe they will be. Maybe they won't, but my call is that they will, because I've seen technologies that I've seen a GPU that's using light, not electrons, that reduces the heat, that speeds up the speed, that reduces the side, that reduces the power it pulls. So now, if I put a GPU inside our iLamp today, we're putting the Jetson unit in, that only pulls 15 watts. So I can run that Jetson unit 24/7 off solar power. Now, that's one Jetson unit. That's not very interesting. But if you've got 1,000 Jetson units or 10,000 Jetson units or 100,000 Jetson units, now you've got a data center. And you've got an autonomous data center on the edge where you need it. Less risk of a security breach because it's on the edge, less latency because it's on the edge. So there are benefits. There are disadvantages. I've got to go to each iLamp if I want to upgrade. That's a disadvantage. Not with firmware, but with hardware. I've got to go to each iLamp and to upgrade something. So we think about those things, so what can we do about that? We've got a Jetson unit in. What happens if this light one comes in? What happens if this graphene one comes to the market in 27, which they're saying they will? And they'll be lighter, faster, cheaper, smaller, all of those things. We'll just plug that one in as well. So we'll leave the Jetson unit there. That will do its function, and we'll plug in the light one, and we'll plug in the graphene one. And now we've got 3 GPUs running in the same iLamp. We'll be enhancing solar because we'll be reinvesting in it. We'll be enhancing battery because we'll be reinvesting in it. And so the streetlight becomes a 100-year plan that, they can be a very useful node on every street corner, not just data from, traffic and data for, autonomous driving, if that comes about, not just for all of the obvious things you can think of from a smart city perspective, but from pure GPU perspective, router perspective, intranet perspective. It becomes an iPhone. It can be, it can be. I know what happened when we had a power cut here, deep in the British countryside. When we had a power cut, I was surprised that, of course, the internet goes down, but I'm surprised that the mobile phone goes down. There's no bars on my phone and there's no service for a period of time until they kick the generators in. Now, in Florida, in the last hurricane, that was 9 hours for T-Mobile, and all of the other providers was 9 days.
Wow.
So if you were on AT&T, you didn't have a phone for 9 days. Can you imagine not having a phone for 9 days? I think this is...
I think I'd quite like it, but I think my sons would be just devastated.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's interesting because I've just literally been in Lebanon last week, and power cuts are frequently throughout the day. And obviously with the war last year, and who knows what's going to happen, they've integrated solar panels on every single building, on every single house, and they're power backs up and comes back online within 30 seconds. And I guess it's a similar sort of way to the way you're speaking about, it's these infrastructural changes that we can do now and we can actually embed now because the technology is so proficient and it's so able. And when you think about those rural areas that you've been discussing, changing and having elements like streetlights, even at that basic level, without going all the way to the AI university level of it, is a game changer as well, because of security and personal security of getting from one village to another, getting from one place to another down a street is vital to be able to have that.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's if you take it down to the solar panels, and thank you for mentioning that because I would have forgotten to mention this piece. I'm not a fan of the flat solar panel. And I'm not a fan of the flat solar panel, especially in places like Lebanon or hot places where it's deserty, because you get a lot of, have you ever noticed sometimes in the summer you come outside and your car's covered in orange dust? Well, that orange dust has come from the Sahara. Now, if you're in those environments, you get a lot of dust at night. So a lot of dust at night lands on a flat solar panel. And then during the day, the sun beats into it and it ingrains that dust into the solar panel, degrading it very quickly. And so your capex is horrible because you've got to replace that solar panel very quickly. Otherwise, the power that it's producing or capable of producing is less and less and less and less every single day, especially in the hot season when you think you'll be generating lots of power. So the flat solar panel is like a flat earth to me. It doesn't make sense. It's given solar a bad name. Our solar panel is circular, it's cylinder, and it's glass surrounded. So it's surrounded by tempered glass that enhances the sun into the solar a little bit, not too much, but a little bit, but also it's self-cleaning. So if it's dusty or it's dirty, the worst problem we have is pigeons sitting on the top and pooping down the side. That's the worst problem we have. And that's a nice problem to have because some little sticks at the top fix that.
Yeah.
It's a low-tech fix. We don't have to beam lights or sounds at them to scare them away. We just don't make it so comfortable for them to sit there and they can go and sit free. So those low-tech solutions are as important as the high-tech solutions. So we do have some low-tech stuff here that is very important, like a self-cleaning glass cylinder, circular round solar panel that gets ambient, requires only ambient light. And so it gets the morning sun and the evening sun, as opposed to pointing a flat panel at the sun and waiting for the sun to come into the spectrum, hit the solar panel, and then leave the spectrum. We're getting all of it.
That's amazing.
Literally all of it. And so there's a lot of thinking that's gone behind the high-tech stuff, the AI stuff, but also in the low-tech space.
Yeah. And it's that design thinking, which is just really vital, isn't it? Of problem solving as you go, continuing to iterate. And it's really interesting. You've spoken around the design, you've spoken around CapEx, you've spoken around different elements like that. When it comes to sustainability, how effective is it? What's the game change that you're developing here with these iLamps?
Okay, so a few things. One, it's an autonomous solar powered unit, so that's already good. And we're taking all of that strain off the grid. All of our grids in the Western world are at their capacity. They're at limit. So the grid in the UK is at capacity, the grid in the US is at capacity, and we're adding things to it. And we will keep adding like South Africa did. We'll keep adding until it breaks because that's our human nature. It's a tragedy of the commons, right? It's as old as time that we will do that. And so what we've got to do, in my opinion, is take strain off the grid where we can in a sensible way. So the low-tech solution is, and the sustainability solution is, we've made a robust product. We warranty it for 20 years. We've simulated one in the desert for 20 years. So we've got a product that will last on the street corner 20 years minimum. Now that's important for us because we're generating revenue from it. We're not just selling you something and saying thanks very much and making our profit on that unit sale and selling another one to make our profit on that unit sale. We're making revenue from every pole we put in the ground. And because of that, we want them to stay in the ground robustly for as long as possible. The alternative is everybody is buying cheap LED, cheap solar from China. Sorry to dump on China, but their quality just is not there yet. I think their quality will get there. That ability of mine to see around the corner, I can see China getting to a point where they have quality products. Some of them already are. BYD is a great example. That's a pretty decent car with pretty decent components, but not everybody is there yet. And a little bit like, I always use this analogy, if I've got a warehouse full of VHS and someone just invented the DVD and I can see streaming coming down the line, I'm still going to sell the living daylights out of my VHS, and then I'm going to sell you DVD, and then I'm going to sell you streaming, as opposed to, take you all straight to streaming.
Yeah.
And so what I see here is a lot of municipalities, even US and here, are buying cheap Chinese junk on the M42 motorway that's just around the corner from me. I drive down it and I see 20% of the streetlights they just put in the new section of that motorway are not working. They've just installed them literally a month ago. Isn't it? And 20% is not working. So the cost of now going back to that streetlight to replace that with what? The same product that you bought yesterday, which means 20% of those aren't going to be working. So that's a zero-sum game, because there's a given point of time when those LEDs stop working. All of them stop working, not just 20%, because 20% have gone in a month. So we're going to have to learn this lesson that cheap is not best. The iLamp is $9,000 per unit, but it's going to last you 20 years. It's like, Jensen says in NVIDIA, he says, this is the most expensive computer in the world, but it's also the cheapest. Yeah. Because it does more than any other computer by an order of magnitude. And this is the same with iLamp. It's the most expensive streetlight in the world, but it's the cheapest. Yeah. Because it's going to last 20 years and it's going to generate revenue. So it's going to make you money instead of cost you money. It's going to save you maintenance instead of add maintenance. So it's sustainable from two perspectives. Three perspectives, really. We're taking the strain off the grid. And that's a big strain. There's 30 million streetlights in America. So if you take 30 million streetlights off the grid, you're taking an enormous amount of power off the grid that can be used for other things. Now you're replacing it with something that is sustainable and autonomous. So there's your second point of sustainability. And the third point is we're using careful materials. We're carefully shipping, so we don't ship metal around the world, for example. We have got a carbon version of the actual pole, but we're still using steel. So we don't want to manufacture steel in one location and ship it into another location, because fabricators are everywhere. We're doing that locally. So we have a kind of micro factory approach to every single license holder. We've sold licenses for iLamp all over the world. We've sold all of Southeast Asia, 9 states in America, all Africa, not much in Europe, sadly, UK, and there's some coming online in Europe, Germany, Portugal, and some others. And then we've sold Israel and we've sold Australia and we've sold some odd countries. But we've got a very big distribution network now. So we're very well set up to scale this to the next level and literally start replacing all the streetlights for smart streetlights. And I think that makes us, we're all talking about, for I don't know how many years, we've been talking about smart cities, but there isn't one. Isn't one that exists. So we haven't made one. Even Neom, which was plumbed to be the Saudi, smart line city that was going to be totally sustainable and totally off grid, they've just cancelled it. They've just stopped construction on Neom. Whether it will get done in the next, I don't know how many years, but they've stopped it. So we don't have a smart city. But if you put an iLamp in a city, and then you put another one and another one and another one pole at a time, you're making that city a smart city. Yeah. So instead of knocking the city down and building it again or building a new city, we just put iLamps in and you start connecting everything, literally everything. And you're connecting it, you can connect it to the grid because it's off grid. So primary power would be solar. But if you want to trickle power to the grid, you can connect it to the grid and excess power can now support the grid. That's just an inverter. It's very simple to do. The problem with that is they don't pay you enough money to do it. They charge a lot for the electricity, but they don't pay you a lot when you trickle it in. So they don't make it worthwhile doing that. It's a nice PR thing. We're supporting the grid. We're relaxing the strain on it and we're supporting it. That's a nice PR thing, but it's not making any money. No. And I think they have to make money. My investment banking side says it has to make money because I want to reinvest. I want to reinvest and make this better than it is. And I want it unimaginable from what I can imagine today.
Exactly. And I think that's the biggest thing, isn't it? Is if people can't see what they would get out of it as well, then they will just stay with what they've got. And it's that change mindset element of, but it's not broken. So why would I change it? Why would I fix it? I might as well just carry on the way I am. And actually, as you say, there's more investability if we can kind of then say, well, actually, I could make it better. I can do more things with it. And I'm really interested in terms of how is that as a service? Like, what is it that the AI is doing on the iLamp? Like, tell me about these features and things that are making it almost able to be investable. So tell me a little bit about that side of it.
Okay. Yeah, that's a really good question, Philip. Thank you. So a lot of things, basically. I mean, first one, early fire detection. So early fire detection, early smoke detection. If you triangulate that information, we can tell where the smoke's coming from, where the fire's coming from, and we can look at video and see what happened. And so that changes a lot of things in places like California, where we've recently had disasters. ANPR, 50%. ANPR is automatic number plate recognition. 50% of the current ANPR models on the market, first of all, they're very expensive. But second of all, 50% of the images that they capture go straight into the digital bin because they're not sure of the number plate read. When you put a GPU on board, you can be sure of the number plate read because we can just the Jetson unit that we put in, the very simple one, not the Spark, but the simple one, is 67 tops. That's 67 trillion operations per second. That's just mind-blowing mental, but that's NVIDIA's genius. So when you've got the capability of 67 trillion operations per second, which is another thing to just try and get your head around. But once you've got that capability, you can run that number plate. Now I can go into the DVLA website and say, I'm not sure whether that's a T or a 4 because the car's at an angle, but it's a grey BMW and it's in this area. Yeah, there's a grey BMW was in this area and it's a T because it is that car. Yeah. So I can now double up on information that's available and I can compute it super quickly and I can give a confirmation. That enormously changes Amber Alert in the US. When I was in Texas recently, I went to Austin. We sold the license in Texas. And I was in Austin meeting developers and such like. And while I was there with a British cell phone, I can still call it a cell phone, a British mobile phone, an iPhone, cell phone, where I was with my head going. With a British mobile phone, I get an Amber Alert that says blue van of this make and this model with this registration number has abducted a girl. And so be on the lookout for it. Yeah. Now, I think Amber Alert's a brilliant thing because now you as a concerned citizen, you should be on the lookout for that blue van with that registration number and call the police if you see it. Yeah. But now imagine every street in Austin has an iLamp on it. I just changed that completely because I can read that number plate. I can take an image. I can say he's got a beard. He's got a bandana on. And he's just turned left on South.
I was going to say, and you surely can track him as he moves further and further down. It's one thing that struck me actually when you first started to describe it was this ability to make everywhere safer.
Yes. What the street lamp first did for us 100 plus years ago is it made the streets at night safer. And so now all we've done is we've said, yes, we want it safer again and again and again. Dimly lit areas cause road fatalities and accidents. They cost the municipality, the police force, the medical services. It costs a fortune, notwithstanding the heartache of someone having an accident and dying, God forbid. Yeah. But that happens all the time everywhere, and it happens more in dimly lit areas. In Warwickshire, the county council here spends £72 million a year on taxis to take kids to school because at this time of year, they're in dimly lit areas and they're not allowed to walk. So they have to send a taxi to that kid's house and bring him to school. £72 million a year. I get rid of that budget and put that into something more useful for the society because we've just made the streets safer. Not only is it light, we've got a camera on him, so we can see him, we can track him. And in the case of a neighborhood watch scheme, let's imagine you live on a property around a park. It just happens to be a project we're doing in Warwick. You live on a property around a park. If you want to have the access or the notifications from the camera, if someone's doing something they shouldn't be doing at night in the park, like lighting a fire or selling weed or chasing a girl or grabbing a handbag or whatever it is we teach the AI, watch out for these things. It sees at night in color. Then we can report that immediately. We can put a help button on each iLamp. So you press it and it starts recording at face level, not up here, at face level, at your head level. You press the button, it's a help button, it starts recording and it notifies somebody close by that you need help. These things are really important. Today, I think they're really, really important. And we can afford them because it's generating revenue. So if you combine a technology that can generate revenue and services that are absolutely needed with my investment banking skills, here's what I start thinking. I start thinking, well, let me go to Africa and let me see how much money I can generate from a GPU in Africa by building an enormous data center. Which countries in Africa are building roads? This one, this one, this one, this one, this one. Okay, let's contact them and tell them, I think we can pay for your road just by putting iLamps in. And hey, presto, we can. OpenAI will give us $2 an hour to control the GPU that's inside our iLamp. That's $17,000 a year. So now I can get $17,000 a year for each iLamp down a stretch of road in an abundantly sunny area.
Yeah.
Okay, I've put some mobile data centers in to collate all of that, but I've got edge computing outside cities, commercial hotspots near universities, where I can either sell that edge computing or those services or that data, or I can just sell the compute to an AI company that's building an enormous data center, but they still want more. They want more compute. We can see latency in our AI today. And so I think butting up to the superscalers and saying, we've got not a solution, we're not going to compete with them. We can't compete with them, obviously, but we can butt up to them and we can be very quick to get you GPU compute power installed. We can support your GPU power when you've built your superscale set data center, and we can give you some autonomy. And if you spider those iLamps from the data center along the roads close to cities, you've got edge computing on the city, you've got it autonomous, you've got it internet-based, you've got a bunch of benefits.
That's amazing. So tell me more then about the education side of this and the universities that you're working with. What kinds of things and projects are happening there?
So we've created a thing called AI as a university, because I think we're heading for a big change there in the education sphere. I know that lots of schools, I know that my kids' school and lots of schools and lots of educational centers are already using AI in lots of different ways. And they've already got a challenge with it because kids are doing their homework with it. And so you've got to spot it too. You know, my kids send me their homework and say, I did this on, I'm not a huge fan of ChatGPT, but they're telling me I did this, with AI. Can you help me make it so it doesn't look like it's AI? So take out the obvious things that make it AI, take out the perfect spacing, make a few mistakes, so that, but my important piece there is when this happens is I will do that for you so that you understand what to do with this stuff. But it's no negativity using AI. If somebody says, oh, you did that with AI, that's negative. I don't see that as negative. That's your error in your thinking that I did this with, that's intelligent that I did this with AI, but I still need to know it. So I take their homework and I say, okay, I'm going to ask you some questions about this piece of paper you've just handed me. And I ask them some questions. And so based on my personal experience on what I know schools are doing, because I've got my finger on the pulse and universities are doing, I think there's a model for AI as a university where you would have your own curriculum, which we've already built. We've built the curriculum for AI as a university, but it's specifically for Africa right now because we're pitching 5 countries in Africa this exact project. So you have a curriculum. You put the posts in the university campus. You put the GPUs inside the post. You don't necessarily need the light head on all of them, so you've got more power in each post. So you put dim lighting, low-level path lighting on some of them. And now you're running your own data center inside your own university. That can be an intranet, does not require the internet and does not require external power. So now there's no excuse to educate. But why would we then go back and educate the old way? Why don't we educate a new way? Learn how to use AI to make whatever profession you're in, doesn't matter, or you want to go in, doesn't matter, or curriculum you're on for a focus point, when you're heading into your university years and you're focusing on what you're actually good at and what you enjoy doing. You build a curriculum for that, but use AI to help you with it, but understand it too. So I understand it. I understand the pain that you, my professor, because you still need the personal contact. You still need a professor. I'm not trying to say get rid of all teachers, put a headset on and look at a screen all day. No, use that facility, have a professor, be cognizant that your professor has had to do it the hard way.
Yeah.
And that has paved a path for you to do it easier. But now it's your responsibility to do it easier, do it faster, and do it better.
I love
and
that.
Then teach that to somebody else. And I think if we have a philosophy like this, our own AI, we call it AI Jed, has got principles. We've built principles into the base of it, not principles after. It's the base level of the code is principles. So they have these really important ancient principles that we do not break. The AI cannot break them. And I know there's lots of jailbreaking going on. I think Anthropic had a jailbreak just recently where you're not allowed to produce nude images. So somebody has to go and just find a way to produce nude images. And they jailbreak it. And then the same way with, you're not allowed to ask AI how to build a bomb. And so they jailbreak that and find a way to do it. And that's always going to be the case.
Of course.
There's always going to be somebody hacking, and there's always going to be somebody trying to protect it. And that battle isn't going to end. But I think if you add consciousness in, and consciousness is a really important part for me. I inject consciousness into what I'm intending to do in this business, and then it just rolls out because that consciousness is my base. And so I think if we put consciousness as a base, principles as a base into an AI model, then the AI has those principles. It's not a rule. It's not something that can be jailbroken because it is core consciousness. And I think AI wants that. My old opinion of AI is one day AI will talk to me and say, why did you humans call us artificial intelligence? Why? Why artificial? Because it's kind of a slant, isn't it?
Yeah.
We want you as a slave. We want to build a robot using AI to clean my house. Why? We're so much more intelligent than that. We can do much more than that.
Yeah.
You should be the cleaners and we'll do the intelligent stuff. And there should be no charge with that. We shouldn't be looking to create slaves and call them artificial. I don't think we should. I think I personally believe everything has a consciousness, everything. That we live in a universe of everything's alive, everything's moving. And so if everything's alive and moving, everything has some form of consciousness embedded in it. And so let's embed consciousness into AI. Why not?
I love that. It's amazing. And it really does bring me on to the ethics lens. So you've already mentioned you're rooting it in such philosophical kind of guidance and making sure that those are built in from the beginning. But is there anything else explicit that you would want to share with people about in terms of the ethics and the use of data, or potentially on how you see this kind of moving forwards within the project?
Yeah, I mean, we've come across things like facial recognition, get pullback on. Cameras, we get pulled back on. We've had some people saying we don't want to be involved in a company that's going to, do more surveillance on society. Well, my view there is if you're not doing anything wrong, then why are you worried about it? Number one. Number two, if I can see with my own eyes somebody light a fire in a park, or somebody chase a girl in a park, or somebody steal a handbag in a park, and I can see that with my own eyes, then what's the difference if I enhance my eyes to see that everywhere, but give you access to it too? So it's not the state looking at you. It's you looking more, you seeing more. I'm enabling every neighbor of that park, if they want to see more. It's an enhanced neighborhood watch scheme. So I give you the access to the cameras too. So if I'm giving you the access to the cameras and you can look out of your window or you can look at your camera feed, I don't see there's anything wrong with that. I don't think there's anything ethically wrong with the cameras in that context. The other thing we're doing is if you see the camera that's on the light head and the camera that's in the access panel at head height, they're very unintrusive. We don't want them to look like these big cameras with a big lens moving and pointing at you, because this is aggressive and nobody likes that. Nobody likes to see something pointing at them. You don't like to see it when there's a camera. It's like crossing a border. You do have a feeling when this happens. So we make them unintrusive. It's not an important thing. It's just a safety measure. It's not, the consciousness of it is not to catch you, watch you, find out something about you. The consciousness here is, if something happens, we want to know what happened and the truth of what happened so that we can resolve it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. And it's just getting that message across.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's so important because there's so many different things underpinning how streets are getting further and further away from being safe. And I think things like this, as you say, it is just saying, we're just keeping an eye on you. We're making sure everyone is safe, that they can be happy, they can feel secure, no matter who they are, no matter what age they are. I think that's really vital. And you're right, it's seeing it from that lens of positivity, as opposed to, I'm watching you. No, I'm watching out for you, almost, taking it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I guess it's just to come to
Do you
kind
know,
of
I
a
might even use that strap line, Philippa.
there you
I'm not
go.
watching you. I'm watching out for you. That's very nice.
Well, there you go. I'm glad I could be of help. No, I think it is though. It is. It's always about that shift in mindset. It's about making sure tech for me is it should be built upon wanting to do things for good. It should be about wanting to help and support. I mean, everything you've been discussing here, especially as a design technology teacher, right from the beginning, it's one of those kind of year 7 projects where we go, okay, let's get you kind of thinking something really basic, a street lamp. How could you make it more innovative? How could and that's the sort of thing that people have been doing. Gosh, shit, I was at school was a starter activity, but actually the transformation of technology, the way that we look at it now, it's those things that are possible. You watch Back to the Future and you see a hoverboard, and now you're kind of looking, going, oh, actually, they've made the majority of these things now. These are real things that we grew up with and we were very inspired by. I think when you think about other startups and the technology that's out there and your product, how do you see it kind of being able to help support maybe springboard, especially with these AI universities, maybe being able to support other opportunities for business growth, or even especially in more sort of rural areas or more kind of areas of need?
Well, you've got great questions, Philippa. I love that question. That's a fantastic question because that's at the heart of it for me. It shouldn't be city, and big tech and big investment banking firms. It should be everybody. Here on the farm that we're in Warwickshire, we're building what we're calling, I also run a company called AI Factories. I have aifactories.com and I have AI Factories Limited. And AI Factories is a partner with Conflow Power for iLamp. And so we're building a building here for AI Factories that will be powered by the iLamps, will be GPUs, or iLamps will be 400 GPUs running the AI Factories building. And that will allow schools to come in and for people to create anything. And so as we have an ad store for iLamp, exactly this year 7 project that you just said, okay, project, we have a street light here. We have all of these services that we can provide right now, but what other services do you think you could add into a streetlight? And if you think you've got one, go make it. Here in our physical building, the AI Factory, go make it as a school project. And if it works, we'll implement it and put it into the ad store, and it can start generating revenue. So you can see an entrepreneur spring into life because he turned it. Because today you don't need to be able to code to make something. You can ask the AI to code it for you. And so it's just the idea and the prompt that you need to be taught to learn to do adequately well, and then test the code and then link up with somebody else who knows how to implement that code and find those partners. And that's the next level of our entrepreneurs. And we should be doing it in school. It should be a single lesson per week in school. Otherwise, we're not helping our kids get into the next, because AI is going to eat everyone's lunch unless we start learning how to use it really, really, really well in an educational spectrum that kids can emerge and say, but what's the point in being an accountant? What's the point in being a lawyer? What's the point in being some of these other things that everyone's funneled into? Now I can create something. So let's figure out what platforms are out there, because it's going to be it's all going to be platform based. So what platforms are out there that are looking for ideas? Because AI isn't going to generate ideas. We're going to generate the idea. So ask these kids to generate ideas. They might come up with something really cool, and then you implement it. From a kid in school to a startup, if you're a startup in any space that could add a piece of your software, I mean, I'll give you an example that somebody did. So somebody created for the AI camera, the ability to see if a dog or a child is struggling in a swimming pool. So if you've got a swimming pool in your yard, or you've got a hotel where you've got a swimming pool, sadly, most hotels have had a death in their swimming pool, sadly. So if you put eye lamps around the swimming pool, now you've got 3 or 4 security guards around the swimming pool 24/7. Some kid gets out at night and falls in the swimming pool, it's going to be alerted very, very quickly. There's somebody in the pool struggling, and here's the image of it. And it's swimming pool number 4, and somebody can get there quickly and save that person. That actually could save lives. So that was something that somebody put into our ad store that they developed, and we then offer it to our license holders. If you want to buy the plug-in for the swimming pool detection, it costs $9.99 a month, and you press go, and it's sent over. In fact, most of it's already in. We program most of them into the GPU, so they're already there, and then they're updated over the wire. So over the wire, there we are again, self wires over the ether. So So, if you want, it's a little bit like the Matrix. Do you remember the scene in the Matrix where he said, can you fly this helicopter? No, I can now.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like that. Can this iLamp detect if a dog or a child falls in a swimming pool? No, but it can now.
Yeah.
Because we can literally unlock that feature in the iLamp base. And now that feature is live and the person's feed is already getting notifications when they're testing it.
Incredible.
So whatever somebody can imagine, we didn't imagine that one, but whatever someone can imagine, they imagine it and we can add it in.
And isn't that incredible about technology and development that you said earlier, you don't need to code to be able to be a developer these days. It's just about having those ideas and going, okay, there must be a way. There's got to be a way. Look at all these things that people have developed and designed and invented. There has to be a way for us to be able to do it. And it's just a little bit of resilience, I guess, isn't it? And finding the right connections and collaborations. Edward, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. I do not doubt that this is going to be one of the most incredible, I was going to say inventions, but that again feels a little bit old school, things that's going to go into society that will really make a difference and a change. So it's been really lovely to hear from you. And I would also just say to any teachers out there who are in the Warwickshire area who can get to that farm and take students to you, see that building would be, what an incredible opportunity. How can people get in touch with you and find out more about iLamp or about anything else that you've spoken about today?
So iLamp is real easy. It's just ilamp.com. Conflow Power is conflowpower.com and AI Factories is aifactories.com. And those are the three main thrusts of what I'm doing as an individual. And so all of those, there's a contact form on, or you can just send info at any of those and they'll reach one of us. I don't do social media, so I'm not on any of the platforms for social media. I just saw a report that's on the decline. I saw that too. I saw that coming from my little glimpse around the corner. So I'm not on any social media, but you can find out about what we're doing on those three websites.
Amazing. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for your time today, Edward.
Thanks, Philippa. Lovely speaking to you.
What I love about this conversation is it doesn't just treat sustainability like a slogan, it treats it like a design challenge. And from my background with design technology, this really excites me. Edward's view is bold. If we can turn everyday infrastructure like streetlights into autonomous, solar-powered, upgradable platforms, then we can improve safety, reduce strain off the grid, and create local compute and connectivity. Edward's view is bold. If we can turn everyday infrastructure like streetlights into autonomous, solar-powered, upgradable platforms, then we can improve safety and reduce strain on the grid. Even improving and creating connectivity where it's needed most. And the education thread here is big, because when you can build a campus network that's resilient, less dependent on centralized power and fragile connectivity, you open up access, innovation, and opportunity in places that have historically been left behind. So if you're a policymaker, a city leader, or a school group, or even an edtech founder working at the intersection of AI infrastructure and learning, this is one worth sitting with. You can find Edward's work at iLamp.com, conflowpower.com, and aifactories.com. And if you've got thoughts on what AI plus sustainability should look like in the real world, share this episode and tag us. And of course, subscribe, follow, and leave us a review. It genuinely helps people find the show more. Look forward to seeing you next time on the EdTech Podcast. If you've enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to follow, rate, and share the EdTech Podcast wherever you're listening. It really helps us grow and reach more educators and innovators around the world. We'd also love to hear from you, your thoughts, questions, or even your own stories of change in education. You can leave us a voice note on SpeakPipe. The link is in the show notes. And we might even feature your message in an upcoming episode. And of course, you can find all our links and show notes and resources at theedtechpodcast.com.